I will call to order the meeting of the Santa Barbara School Board for Tuesday, April 26, 2011. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
And we have with us tonight Martha Corona, who is here to translate for us. Martha, would you please come up and introduce yourself?
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Marta Corona, voy a ser el intérprete de la Junta de esta noche. Si necesitan servicios de interpretación, por favor pasen a verme acá atrás. Gracias.
Gracias. In addition, we also have headsets for the hearing impaired, as noted on our screen. If anybody is in need of this technology, please let us know. Okay. Introductions, proclamations, presentations, or recognitions from our superintendent.
Well, we have just one. I'd like to introduce to you our teacher on special assignment, Elise Simmons, who is with us here tonight to share information on last week's AVID celebration. Board members, you have the brochure right here that has the agenda, and you'll note that the keynote speaker at that celebration was our own Monique Limon, who did just an outstanding job, and it was really a wonderful celebration of the success of our AVID program. And we heard from many students about their own aspirations for college and their own futures. Elise?
Thank you. I want to first acknowledge and thank the board for their continuing support of the AVID program. We are just wrapping up year 6 and looking forward to year 7. And I have brought with me 3 of the seniors that actually spoke at the event. And so they'll come up here in a moment and give you a shortened version of their speech that they gave. But I'd like to let you know that the event honored over 70 students, and I think on E-News it might have said 60. So it's actually 70 graduating seniors, and we're seeing a huge increase in the number of students that are being accepted and attending four-year colleges. And so first I'd like to acknowledge some folks that are here, and then I'll bring the students on up. Dr. Cynthia White has been a strong supporter and advocate and cheerleader and everything for the AVID program, and so she's going to thank her as well. Sean Ritchie, he is our AVID 12 senior. Will you raise your hand, wave? He is one of our AVID elective teachers, and he has just wrapped up his 4th year, and he has spent all 4 years with the AVID seniors at San Marcos. We have the family of Victor Rojas, and he'll come up in a second. They're here, so we want to thank the parents and the siblings of the students in the AVID program. We know it's a joint effort. And then we also have some other AVID students that have come here to support their fellow classmate. So if I can have Valentina and Anel and Victor come on up, and these are the 3 young folks that spoke at the senior celebration, and they're going to share with you some of their thoughts and dreams of how AVID has impacted them and what they're looking forward to in the future.
Hi, my name is Valentina Luisa Garcia. I've been in AVID for 4 years. I'm the middle child in my family. AVID has helped me a lot because when I was younger, I was always struggling with family problems and issues. And when I entered AVID, I didn't understand how it would really benefit me, but especially my junior and my senior year, I understood how it would really help me. And I loved how we had community building activities where we sit around a circle and kind of like write nice things about each other and open up to one another, and that really made me more outgoing, more willingness to like have that willingness to go out there and go for what I wanted. And we had field trips where I was able to go to Cal State Northridge, which is the school I fell in love with and I got accepted to, and I'm going to this year. So I'm very happy about that. If it wasn't for AVID and Mr. Dillon, my teacher, pushing us like all those years, I honestly don't know where I'd be right now. AVID has helped me so much, like paying for everything that had to go, like the AP test, the pre-SAT test, and the SAT test that I've taken. So for AVID, I thank you all. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Victor Rojas. I've been in Avid for 3 years. I come from a immigrant family, and they don't know what it's like, the system here, how it works. They don't know how the schools work, and being the oldest, I have to go through it not knowing as well. And Avid has helped me a lot because it's given me access to schools and how they work, access to how application works, being able to fill it out. I'm not a shy guy, so if I want something, I go for it. But Avid has really, it's given me that extra push I needed to go on, and it's good for any. I recommend it stays for a lot of years because it's really helpful. I mean, not me for being Latino, but it could help anybody just with them wanting to go and be successful in life. For example, my younger siblings, they want to go to college later, and since Avid is being updated with all the college and the systems and all that, they could go to college as well and live their dream of being whatever they would like to be. And I would like to thank you guys for supporting that program. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anel. Can you hear me? Okay. As I look back on my high school experience, I realize how vital Avid was in my success. And as I think we can all agree, it was a vital experience in our lives. We evolved from immature freshmen to distinct young adults, with the world ahead of us and all the tools necessary to conquer it. Throughout this experience, we have met some of our closest friends and welcomed their individuality while embracing it as our own. Our bond was formed throughout 4 years of endless discussions, laughs, a few tears, and a common goal: success. Mr. Ritchie, thank you for becoming our mentor, a figure of inspiration, and a source of motivation. Throughout the years, we have trusted you to help us plan our academic year and essentially prepare us for the road ahead. Throughout the turbulent experience of high school and our individual surroundings, you became a consistent factor in our lives. May it be the corny jokes, the bits of advice, or the constant challenging thoughts, you became invested in our lives and in our well-being, not because it was your job, but because you genuinely desired to devote your time and efforts into our future. And in a time when we failed to see the potential within us, you fought to rekindle our passion and desire to persevere. Within people like yourself lies the key to successful and well-prepared, college-bound young adolescents. You're an excellent educator and a person I admire greatly. We have been blessed with an education. We hold the key to our futures, and only we can determine where we will end up and who we will become. We all have distinct passions, and it is up to us to pave the way for future generations. As Cesar Chavez once said, once social change begins, it cannot be reversed. You cannot uneducate the person who has learned to read. You cannot humiliate the person who has felt pride. And you cannot oppress the people who are not afraid anymore. We have seen the future, and the future is ours. Thank you.
I'd like to share just two other little bits of information. Victor is going to go to Santa Barbara City College and plans to transfer to USC or UCLA and major in engineering. And Anel is going to Berkeley, full ride scholarship. And one last thing, and I don't know if Anel knows this or not, but there is a timed writing essay competition that all the Avid students participate in. And Anel's essay has now won first place at the regional level for 12th grade, which means she has beat out hundreds of essays from other 12th grade Avid students in the counties of Kern, San Luis Obispo, Ventura, and Santa Barbara. So congratulations, Anel. So thank you again.
Good, thank you, Elise.
Si se puede.
That's right.
So I'd just like to say thank you to the students who spoke tonight and to all the students who participated in this, and gracias a sus padres también. And we are very proud of you, and we look forward to great things from all of you. I'm hoping some of you might be graduation speakers, because it sounds like we would hear some good speeches if you were. Thank you. And thank you to your teachers as well.
Excellent. Well, that's it for presentations tonight. Shall I go on with Superintendent's Report?
Please do.
Good. Well, a number of people have asked where we are with our district budget cuts, and I think it's important to provide an update. We've also had, yes, sorry. Go right ahead.
I'm sorry, I just want to interject for those of you who are leaving, that if the students want to see themselves on TV, that our meetings are televised on Channel 18 on Saturdays at 5:30. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, at 5 o'clock. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Sorry, Dr. Sarvis.
No, no problem, no problem. We've also been asked many questions about what the board decided, what the trade-offs are, how much things will cost, so how much would furlough days actually cost us in terms of salary, how many jobs could be saved by furlough days. So we've tried to answer those, but especially people in the media who have asked questions about just updating the media on where we are as well. The short answer as to where we are is that the district is currently in negotiations with the Santa Barbara Teachers Association and with our classified California State Employees Association regarding furlough days, and if successful, will not need to move ahead on massive layoffs. The long answer is a much bigger picture and it has a number of parts to it. The district has mapped out a course on the actions for the 2011-12. This is all about the 2011-12 district budget to ensure our fiscal health in response to the ongoing state budget crisis, and it certainly is an ongoing crisis. There are three major pieces to this puzzle. First, 2 months ago, the board identified $10 million in budget cuts based on multi-year projections showing the size of the cuts that would be needed to be made to maintain our required 3% reserve over the next 3 years. Second, the board has been moving ahead on unifying the elementary and the secondary districts, which is a move that is projected to bring us some $6 million in revenue. We're expecting to have the final answer on this Thompson unification by the end of May, which is expected to reduce the amount of needed cuts to only $4 million, unless other things happen at the state. Because finally, a third factor that might affect the total amount of the district budget cuts that will be enacted in preparation for next year's budget again is the projected outcome of the deteriorating state budget for education. Once again, we do not expect the state to meet their budget deadline by the end of June when we adopt our district budget, but we do expect to know quite a bit more about what's going to happen at the state level based on the information that we'll receive in the May revise. The board's decisions on budgets in February were to move ahead with some $1.2 million in budget cuts that were not dependent on negotiations and to negotiate the remaining $8.8 million in cuts. I think it's important to explain the board's decisions because there seems to be plenty of confusion out there about what all that means. The negotiated items include furlough days and parity in staffing the 3 comprehensive high schools. By far the largest item, though, is furlough days for all staff, and that includes our certificated, our classified, and our management confidential staff. The board's focus has been on saving jobs through furlough days rather than implement staff reductions. Well, what would furlough days do? I mean, these are the often asked questions. 5 furlough days across all staff would yield over $4 million in our budgets. They would reduce the work year by 5 days, but not the school year for students. It would maintain the same school year of 180 days for students, and it would reduce salaries by about 2.5%. It's slightly higher for certificated staff, slightly lower for classified staff, and even higher for management staff. 10 furlough days would yield over $8 million, would include a 5-day reduction in the school year for students, and would reduce salaries by some 5%. Again, the amount varies by classification. If we're successful in unification, we do not think that we will need 10 furlough days. But again, furlough days are negotiable, and we may not achieve that goal. Well, in the event that furlough days are not agreed to, the board will need to move ahead on staff reductions. And there was a long list of possibilities that was shown on the table that was really gleaned from other school districts and the cuts they've made in the past 2 years. And we'd have to move ahead on these even if we are successful in unifying the elementary and secondary districts. The list of possible staff reductions includes teachers in grades K-3, high school, English teachers, counselors, librarians, nurses, library assistants, health assistants, clerical workers, custodians, ground staff, clerical site, I've got something wrong there, our ground staff, our site and district office administrators, as well as co-curricular stipends. Generally, 10 furlough days would save the equivalent of about 46 certificated positions, and generally 10 furlough days would save the equivalent of about 24 classified positions. The board does not expect to revisit these programs and or the personnel cuts unless we are unsuccessful in negotiating furlough days. And if we are unsuccessful, the board will have to decide which of the many personnel and services on the list to cut, even if unification is successful. Finally, the state legislature has failed to place state initiatives to extend temporary taxes on the June ballot. We know that we will have to move ahead with at least $4 million in cuts, even if district unification is successful. If the state's financial position continues to deteriorate, our board may have to revisit all current financial projections. So we may have to take a step back and go at this whole thing once again. It's unlikely that state funding projections will improve in the next couple of months. In fact, we've been watching the state projections. There's one doomsday scenario in the event that the legislature does nothing with respect to the extension of temporary taxes that would cost us an additional $811 per student. It would cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars per student in state funding, amounting to an additional $11 million in cuts to our district budget, even if unification is successful. So we're in the middle of that process. We will follow through that process. We expect to know about unification by the end of May. We're hoping to know. In fact, the County Committee for School District Reorganization has scheduled a number of hearings in May on the proposed Thompson unification for our elementary and secondary districts. I want to make it clear that the Thompson bill allows us to unify our elementary and our secondary school districts without the other feeder districts in the South County, without the Goleta Elementary, the Hope Elementary, Montecito, or Cold Spring districts. Just the Santa Barbara Elementary District and the Santa Barbara Secondary District, and all of the other elementary school districts have already passed resolutions approving our Thompson unification without them. Well, while everyone seems to be in full agreement, the county committee nevertheless needs to hold hearings, and there are a number of hearings scheduled on May 3rd at the Goleta Union School District's boardroom, 7 o'clock, May 5th, the Montecito Union School District's auditorium, 7 o'clock, and May 9th, right here in our district boardroom at 7 o'clock. And the committee will then meet on Thursday, April 19, and we may have a final decision as to our unification, especially in that our waivers will have already been in front of the State Board of Education, and we expect an answer on those by the end of May 12. The State Board meeting is May 11 and 12. So there's a quick update. I know it doesn't seem quick. In fact, we may have a lot of decisions to make at the end of May and going into June. But we are quickly approaching the end of the school year. We're just 5 weeks away from the end of the school year. Graduations and promotions are just around the corner. A copy of the graduation promotion schedule is included. Let's see, I believe you all have copies in the dais, and I believe there are copies on the table. And let's see, let me go on with other announcements about upcoming events. Our 145th year anniversary celebration will be taking place on May 12 from 3 o'clock to 4:30, just across the street at the Santa Barbara Historical Museum. We're finalizing plans for what promises to be a wonderful showcase of student talent and a glimpse into our district's past. Invitations are located again in the back of the room. And this week we have a number of student performances. We also have an overall list, and those are listed on the district website as well. Just this week we have Dos Pueblos High School's Student Art Show, which is Thursday in the school cafeteria. Santa Barbara High School's Art Show and Spring Art Show opening reception is also this Thursday in their cafeteria. Performing Arts Department students will provide entertainment for that event. Santa Barbara High School's Spring Musical, Anything Goes, starts this Friday. And San Marcos High School's Spring Musical, Me and My Girl, begins on May 5th. Copies of the full list are available on the district website. That concludes the superintendent's report for tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sarvis. That was quite a full report. We have a lot going on. That brings us to board comments and correspondence. And I would like to begin by just briefly updating us on where we are with the superintendent search. As the public knows, we are in the process of hiring a new superintendent to replace our outgoing Dr. Sarvis, who of course is irreplaceable. But we will do our best. Applications close on April 30th, so at the end of this month, at the end of this week, we will have our applications. I believe that we have quite a number already. I haven't gotten the most recent updated number. Do you have that, Ms. Deacon?
I believe 48 people have started the application
Okay, so we believe that we will have quite a good application pool. We will be meeting to decide, to review those candidates and decide on which candidates will be invited for an interview on May 21st. And then we will be conducting the interviews on May 25th and 26th. We are hopeful that we will have a final decision by mid-June. So we'll have quite a busy May, meeting and interviewing, et cetera. But I'm optimistic that we will have a great selection and we'll be able to come up with a great choice. So, are there any other comments or correspondence from the board members? Ms. Parker?
Well, I want to give a special shout out today to the La Cumbra Teen Cuisine program, since we were all there and had a fabulous dinner, thanks to their after-school cooking club. So many thanks to those students and to their teacher, Donna Barker. And I also had a quick question for staff, and that is we have a master schedule report that was commissioned by an outside consultant, and I'm wondering when that's going to come to the board.
That will be in Friday's board brief.
Thank you.
Okay, other board members? Mrs. Deacon?
I briefly wanted to share with the board that not this most recent weekend, but the weekend before, I attended part of the performance of Hello Dolly at Dos Pueblos High School. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay for the whole thing. But Dr. Virgil Elings presented the students in the performing arts program with a check for $530,000. And it was interesting because his donation to the Performing Arts Center came in the form of silver certificates, which appreciated by $30,000 between the time when he gave them to us and when we cashed them in. So that was a nice bonus. But it was a great event, and the 1978 cast of Hello Dolly was there, the San Marcos cast, and they got to mingle with the current student cast. So that was really a nice event, and Clark Sayer helped put that on, so we appreciated that. I also just wanted to briefly remind everyone that on May 24th, the Santa Barbara Education Foundation is holding its annual Hope Awards event, and Dr. Sarvis and Dr. Elings are both being honored, and there's a special ticket price, reduced ticket price for staff, so I wanted to make sure that they all knew that, as well as the general public. May 14th. Did I say that? May 14th. Yes. Thank
May
you.
I add, that was quite the surprise to all of us when Virgil Ealings held up the check, he looked down. We all thought it was $500,000. It was $530,000. So he made that announcement to the crowd.
Mr. Herron?
Just a couple of things. I did attend an all-day session on the Healthy Kid and school climate reports, an instructional class on how to read them, what they mean, and how to distribute them throughout the school system. It was a very worthwhile day of education, and hopefully we'll have more information on that as we go forward. It's all very good information. I did attend the Adelante art show they had, and I have to say this, I think it was the 6th grade, had very inspirational art. Each little piece had inspirational words on it that I thought were very, very good. It was just a nice event down on the beach, very nice. The AVID celebration with our esteemed colleague here, I learned a lot, always do, from Monique. But what I really learned is every single student was introduced, and then each of them gave a little saying about what they want to accomplish in life. And I just hope someday all those sayings can be put in writing so we get a copy of them, because each student had some great aspirations. It was a very inspirational session. I did enjoy the correspondence we received from a couple sources on the MAA funds, where a few of our teachers did something exceptional and brought in about $150,000 to the district, of which $25,000 I think went back to the school sites. And that was from a small number of potential teachers. If we could somehow encourage 200 teachers to all do the same thing, the dollars coming into the district would be substantial. And so I hope there's an effort. This particular week is a chance to do it again. So I hope the teachers are doing it, those who qualify for it and who have been trained.
And Mr. Herron, we're advertising the incentive that's available on that to all staff who could participate and help increase that amount.
Yeah, and I would hope that those that really do a great job, I think our president indicated, many of them, 18 of them, did 3 separate sessions. And if some of the funds could go back to helping them in their classrooms, that would be a great additional incentive also. A lot of us woke up this morning to the schools have failed sex ed. I don't know how many saw Daily Sound. And, we did get correspondence on a very good report by Planned Parent. And so I would hope that that would be on our agenda sometime for more further discussion. Thank you.
And I just want to comment on those teachers who did complete the 3 petitions for the MA reimbursements. I did contact each of them and thank them for taking the time to do that, because it did bring in quite a substantial amount of money to the district. And I will forward this, if I haven't already, to you, Ms. Waski. We had a couple of people who were even volunteering to help train other teachers, because apparently there is a little bit involved in filling out those petitions. So some teachers were saying they were willing to help other teachers learn how to do it. So it was really inspirational to see how many people were willing to take the extra step to do that. Okay, I had one last thing. I brought in this magazine that we receive. It's called High School Today, the Voice of Education-Based Athletic and Fine Arts Activities. And it's a publication of the National Federation of State High School Associations. I just wanted to point out that there was a very brief little article about one of our students and recent speaker who was here at our board meeting recently. It said, and I'll just read this quick little sentence, on February 26th, in what is believed to be the first time ever in high school baseball, a game featured 2 girls as starting pitchers. So I thought that was quite a milestone, and one of those young women was Gazella, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing her first name right, we always call her Oz, Sailors, who started for San Marcos High School. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that we are on the cutting edge in many ways. Thank you. Okay, so if we have no further correspondence, we will move on then to the announcement from closed session. In closed session today, we had a couple of motions and a couple of action items that we voted on in agenda item B2, which was approval or denial of interdistrict transfer appeals for Santa Barbara Secondary School District. In case number 2011/12-1, there was a motion to deny the appeal. Motion was made by Ms. Parker, seconded by Cordero, and it passed 5-0. In case 2011/12-2, again, the motion to deny the appeal made by Parker, seconded by Cordero, passed 5-0. In addition, on item B3, conference with legal counsel over existing litigation.
There is nothing to report out on that one.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, we did not take reportable action. Thank you. Okay, and that was it for our closed session. And that brings us to public comments.
We have 2 public comments this evening. David Holmes, followed by Lane Wheeler.
Hi, David Holmes, San Marcos High School Theater. And as most of you know, I'm a pretty vocal arts advocate. I believe in the value of arts education. I see miracles happen in my classroom, but I see the greatest change in students in performing. When you have 60 to 70 students all focused on the same activity, each one a starting player, each one a star in his own right, all work together to try to tell a story and do it artfully. It's amazing. It's probably one of the hardest jobs that I know of as a director because you have to wear so many hats. I thought for a second about bringing kids down here, but we just finished a rehearsal at 6, and I thought maybe it was better if they just went home. And we are in the middle of testing right now. And so I decided to come down on my own and wear the PR hat and encourage you guys to get out and see all of the place. And I appreciate the fact that you went to see Dos Pueblos' production of Hello, Dolly. We couldn't get there. And it's so hard for those of us who are in the classroom to actually to get out and see each other's work. I'd encourage you to see Santa Barbara High School's Anything Goes, but come out and see this gem. This is a wonderful play written in the 1930s, just before World War II. And it's a wonderful story. It's really very much like My Fair Lady. A Cockney man finds out that he is the next heir to this great fortune, but he must rise and become a proper English gentleman. And one of his conflicts is he has to get rid of his girl, and he says no. And so it's a play that's really about love, and it's about commitment, and it's about fighting for those things that you think are important. And that's why I'm here. And I know that the tough decisions are coming up, and all of you have to make those tough decisions. And I would just ask you to think of the kids that are involved in these programs, appreciate the teachers who run those programs, because a program does not run by itself. It is definitely those inspired and interested teachers who are out there making it happen. So I'm in my 27th year now teaching, the longest surviving drama teacher in this district's history. That's amazing, isn't it? And I love it. I love what I do, and I love these kids, and I love this art. There's nothing quite like it. Tap dance, Charleston, it's crazy stuff and crazy fun. And at this time, yeah, we need to have some crazy fun. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Always a tough act to follow. Thank you, Lane Wheeler, President of the Santa Barbara Teachers Association. And I'm here to let you know that there's a state of emergency in California. California has cut education so drastically that it's hurting not only our public schools, but our colleges, our community colleges, and our communities. The legislature has failed to pass a state budget that protects basic essential services that's destroying our future. And that's why CTA and Santa Barbara Teachers Association are asking educators, students, and parents to participate in a series of bold actions that are going to be taking place May 9th through the 13th. There are going to be a number of regional rallies that are in areas where we won't be able to participate, so we're going to be taking it to the streets here and really letting people know what's going on. You don't need to know how badly we have been cut here in Santa Barbara. Think about $20 billion at the state level over the last 3 years, and we're now facing another $4 billion. 20,000 teachers are losing their jobs this year, on top of the 30,000 have already lost in the last 3 years. Our class sizes are outrageous. Instructional days are being eliminated. Counselors are disappearing. Our arts that you've just heard about, music programs, PE, athletic programs are going. Library books and libraries are being deteriorated. And it's not fair to our students. It's not fair to our families. It's not fair to our future to let this happen. And I'm calling upon all of you to take an action and be part of the Learn Week of May 9th through the 13th. We're going to be contacting contacting legislators, L, on Monday, and reaching out to parents, every parent, E, on Tuesday, and appreciating our teachers during the Day of the Teacher on Wednesday, the A. And then R, talking about revenue and how we can create more of it in our state on Thursday, and then not business as usual in the Learn Week on Friday. And we're asking you to be part of that. The action that I'm asking you to take tonight is to pass a resolution, and I'll read that resolution, that supports California's education system, week of May 9th to the 13th. Whereas our schools, colleges, and communities are suffering because of continued state budget cuts, and whereas the state budget cuts rob California students of education that they need and deserve, and I might add, the future. Whereas legislators have hijacked the state's budget negotiations in order to block a June ballot public vote to extend tax revenues, and whereas K-12 and higher education funding has been cut by more than $20 billion over the past 3 years, resulting in a loss of more than 30,000 educators and 10,000 school support employees, and whereas California faces a loss of another 20,000 educators this year, and whereas California's education will not survive an all-cuts budget, and whereas the Santa Barbara School District stands to lose over another $5 million, and 200 educators have been told that they would not be returning this next year through either RIFs or through non-hiring of temporaries. Whereas the California legislators can do the job and can pass a temporary tax extension, therefore it should be resolved that the Santa Barbara School District fully supports May 9th, 2010, a week of action, calling on the California legislature to pass a temporary tax extension to protect California's future, California's students, and California's public education. And I'll call upon you to take action on this immediately. I have an information sheet and also a sheet on how to contact our legislators, including Doss Williams and Tony Strickland, to ask them to move on this issue. And I'll approach the dais at this point and present that material to you. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Okay, and just for the public's information, of course, we cannot take action on something that has not been agendized. It would violate the Brown Act. As much as we may agree with it in spirit, we do not want to invite a lawsuit. So we will have to leave it in spirit. But we can certainly add it to our agenda at a future date. That would be May 10th. So it'll be after the 9th, but it'll be during that time period. Okay, so that concludes public comment. That brings us to the acceptance of donations.
Move to accept with gratitude.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. With great gratitude, because it's quite a nice, tidy sum there. For those of you who don't have the agenda in front of you, the total we're looking at is $1,249,339. So we greatly appreciate the generosity of our community. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I don't have the copy of it, but I know there was a very, very large donation from the Marburg. Is that's in there? Yes. And so I just want special thanks to the Marburg family.
Yes, thank you. We have been very fortunate to be the recipients of significant generosity from the Marburg family, so it's ongoing and we appreciate it. That brings us to the consent agenda. Are there items that board members would like to pull from the consent agenda? Yes, Ms. Parker? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Deacon, go ahead.
D7 and D8.
Okay, 7 and 8. Any other items, Ms. Parker?
I don't want to pull D5, but I have a quick question and comment, if I could make those now.
Okay.
On D5, which is the approval of single plan for student achievement, Santa Barbara High School, one question I have would it be possible to get a summary sheet of the total amount that Santa Barbara High has available for it in categoricals? And then, you know, our particular sheet doesn't, our single plan doesn't have it, or the version that we have here. What page is it, Ms. Wagner?
I don't know if you all have it.
But if you have it, then if we could just get a copy, because I looked through and I couldn't see it, that would be great.
We'll put that in the board brief.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And then I just want to say a special thank you, because I know that Ms. Wagner, you and your site council put in so much work on this, and we appreciate it coming to the board at this point.
Yeah, I'm not going to pull it either, but I'm glad you're here at least to give us the opportunity. It poses a lot of questions, and I'll probably talk to you privately on it. It's just a lot of different things that I came across that it's just so long in the making that the year's over, so it doesn't do much to talk about it. Thank you.
But we greatly appreciate having it, so thank you. Okay, were there any other items that we wanted to pull? We have 7 and 8.
No, but
Okay,
I need you to note on item D20, the title is correct on D20, but it erroneously shows the funding source as Measure R bond funds. And in fact, if you look at the actual agenda item, it correctly shows the funding source as a result of fundraising. So you don't need
Thank
to do
you.
anything with it other than know that it's as a result of fundraising.
Okay. All right, then, with the exception of items D7 and D8, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved?
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. And we will return to items D7 and D8 at the end of this agenda. So that brings us then to the action agenda, item E1, the approval of junior high school independent study for physical education.
Well, this is an extension of a discussion that we've previously had. It's on the action agenda tonight, and Robin Sawaski, our Associate Superintendent for Education, will make the presentation.
That I will do. I do need to note that, and I'm not quite sure how, with the Brown Act, we need to approach this, but the title in the agenda shows junior high independent study PE. If you look at the memo that goes with it, it does not specify junior high, because as you read through the memo, you know that it's become, you know, something that the high school staff has also embraced. So I'm not quite sure. We can talk about that at the end as far as approval or, you know, the discussion. But I just want to note that. And I'll try to be as short as I can, but I do have information because I know we have people here in the audience and I don't know if they have all the background information. As the board knows, this came forward originally as a result of an expired MOU that was regarding the stipends for the independent study PE program at the junior high. And so we began talking about this earlier this year. really, it came up at last year's, a year ago, independent study coordinators meeting when we were doing the selection for the students that would fit the criteria. And we had a revision last year, actually, in the criteria, a slight revision. So then we had a board brief, and then we had a conference agenda 2 weeks ago for April 12th. As you can see on the beginning of in the memo, the actual memo, the participation criteria that we came forward with after getting board direction on April 12th to move forward with a revised criteria is that the student is an exceptionally gifted athlete who has competed nationally or internationally on an individual basis for at least a year. Dance students must demonstrate that they have been in an auditioned company for at least 1 year and have been in a non-studio production in a leading dance role, meaning that the studio that they work with, it's beyond that. It's not just a local studio. A portfolio documenting this competition level and performance history must be included in the ISP, Independent Study PE application. Also, the second part was that the Independent Study PE students should exceed the district's school-based physical education participation requirements, which are by Ed Code. Interestingly enough, the only curriculum area that Ed Code has actual minutes. We have recommended minutes from the state, but this is the only thing that sits in Ed Code, as we have to have a minimum of 400 minutes every 10 days. And the increase that our staff, the coordinators out at the schools, thought was appropriate, that they would be meeting with their coach and trainer for a minimum of 10 hours per week. I want to add at this point, in talking to, corresponding with a couple of parents, they felt that was unclear in that they didn't know that they couldn't read from that it meant the competition or the performance time. And so we could potentially add in there with their meeting with their coach trainer for practice and or competition for a minimum of 10 hours. And so those were the suggestions from the staff on that piece. As I think you know, offering independent study PE is not a requirement. It's something that's voluntary. It's an alternative for the regular PE. Many districts don't offer it, such as Ventura Unified, and I'm sure some of you have done some of that research. I know some of the parents did. The reasons for districts not offering it are usually including they want to provide a comprehensive California standards-based PE program for their students. Those districts who do offer it are quite varied in the criteria, and I gave 2 samples last time that was attached to the agenda, and we talked about it a little bit. I do want to respond to some of the comments that I've received. I'm sure you've received quite a few from parents, maybe questions too. I want to clarify a couple things. The first thing is that the proposed changes, excuse me, to ISPE do not affect the current PE policy that allows PE credit for approved alternative activities such as marching band, theater with dance in it, and I know you know this. We just looked at that recently, and I think I understand how there could be a confusion there, because if you go on the CDE website and you look up independent, or search that, it talks about alternate PE curriculum and delivery of instruction, and it mentions that type of marching band. That's in our PE program. Independent PE is also a different kind of alternate PE program. So it's not changing that. So our students who are in marching band and all of those alternate programs, that stays. It's also not something, it's not intended to allow students to have an additional elective. Now, I can't say with 100% surety that is happening at all of our sites right now. Our understanding is that if a student has independent study PE, they would be leaving at the end of, say, 5th period, because presumably they're going to training. So it's not in order to provide an extra elective or an additional class. There would be an exception if we had a student that needed, for instance, an AVID elective or some type of intervention course. That would be an exception to that, but it's not in place. And of course, that would cost the district a lot of extra money, providing an extra elective for kids. It's also not intended to discourage students from participating in after-school sports or any of the activities that enrich their lives, promote healthy lifelong skills. We really encourage that. We want our students to pursue individual passions and find strengths in areas outside of what our schools can possibly offer. And a lot of the activities that students are engaged in right now with Independent Study PE are those. We don't offer them. So what this is based on, the reason it's coming forward, of course prompted through the MOU, is that our staff believes the students benefit greatly from being together in classes such as PE, where all levels of students work and learn together and recognize unique strengths in each other. For many students, this may be the only time that this occurs in a PE class, sometimes in electives, but many of our students aren't able to take electives. They're in an additional English class or, you know, some kind of intervention class. So PE is the only place where kids are all together. Our staff also values their standards-based PE curriculum and believe it provides their students with important skills and an opportunity to learn about healthy lifelong habits and different kinds of sports and activities. Now, that can be reached other ways, I know, but particularly at the junior high level, the PE curriculum based on the framework is really strong and offers a lot of, you know, individual sports and that kind of thing that they may not be ever introduced to again. Most of our kids, too, we have some PE specialists in our elementary schools, but for the most part, junior high and high school is the only time that students actually have a credentialed PE teacher that instructs them in physical education. Our staff believes that the intent of the ISPE program is to support the elite athlete who is pursuing a sport or an activity such as dance, which would be a different type of activity, actually as a career, or they're on their way to the Olympics, the kind of thing that is just a huge part of their life. This elite athlete spends most of his or her hours outside of school, 6 to 7 days a week training, I mean, just hours and hours. This does not describe most of the activities, excuse me, and training schedules for many of our current ISPE students. Most of these students could probably spend the 45 to 55 minutes daily in a PE class and still be able to complete their homework, get to their, you know, their current ISPE programs, whether it's a team sport or individual. I mean, most of them could, unless they fit this new criteria. We also believe it's become a program that only middle to upper class students can enjoy. And this is something that hasn't really come out before, but I collected the data, and literally all but a handful, less than 10 for sure. The numbers I got, I didn't get Santa Barbara High's, but the numbers I got currently, there's 3 students who are not white students, and those are Asian students. So it's a kind of considered a, you know, program that really separates kids out. So to review, this started out as only a recommendation for junior high. However, through the discussions and with everyone, the new criteria was really embraced by the high school staff. So as stated in the memo, our recommendation is to use the new participation criteria for incoming 7th graders only. We want to kind of grandfather in and have kids who are already participating be able to go forward with that, and moving to the 8th through 12th grade starting next year. The one exception that we do recommend is that the minimum weekly time of 10 hours apply to all students. So there could be some current students that their activity right now really isn't that rigorous as far as the training that we would want to see. Given these revisions, staff predicts the cost of compensating our ISP coordinators would be no more than $10,000. Although it's difficult to predict, as you know, how these revisions would affect the PE sections at schools, because with particularly junior high, you've got only 2 years. So we don't know necessarily which students are coming in from all over. We don't have all of our projections in place, and we don't have all the kids registered yet. So we don't know exactly what that will be. We may need another section or 2. As we looked at the numbers last week, or 2 weeks ago, overall we had plenty of sections if we put every single ISP student, at least in junior high, in, but it was different in 2 schools. 2 schools would have potentially needed an extra section, 2 would not have. So that part is hard to really estimate without the actual, the numbers. So I know you're going to want to hear public comments. You probably have questions, other things that maybe I've not addressed, but that's kind of an overview of why we're even here discussing it. I know it's a difficult one, and I know there are people who feel very strongly about it, and many students who have benefited greatly from Independent Study PE program, and I support it for those students who really need that extra time.
I need to address the agenda title as well. These changes affect more than just junior high, and because they affect more than junior high, in fairness, we need to bring this back to our next board meeting on the action agenda. There may be people at the high school level who want to speak to this. There may be people here tonight who would like the opportunity to speak. You could give them that opportunity and provide additional opportunities. I mean, these same people wouldn't necessarily be provided the opportunity to speak again, but you could offer them that choice.
Okay. I completely agree. I think that because of the language on the agenda, it is likely that high schoolers, parents, et cetera, who might not have come tonight, who would be interested in this if they knew that we were discussing high school as well. So I do agree with that. I
guess my clarification question is, are you suggesting we go ahead and take public comment and then have board discussion at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So at this point, I will close public comment. We have a number of people who have requested to speak, and you can choose to speak tonight or at the next meeting at your discretion. And we will go ahead and take those now.
I apologize in advance if I don't pronounce your names correctly. We have Joan Fignoci, is that close? Followed by Gwyn Hidlick, Nick, and Roy Weinecke. You have 3 minutes.
So my name's Joan Vignoki, and I think people call me like Miss Hockey sometimes. I started playing in high school at La Patera Lane. We had an indoor rink. That's where I met my husband. He played for DP. No, San Marcos. I went to DP. Sorry. I hate cameras. They need to go away. Sorry. My son plays hockey. They didn't have a team in Oxnard, which is our closest ice hockey rink, and he plays in Simi Valley this year. So he's also a 7th grader at La Colina. So I fit into weird things, and I was a school employee for several years, so I do not envy your jobs of having to figure out all this money mess. However, when I first started researching, parents were, several of whom are here tonight, were saying, gosh, it's just so sad. We don't get credit for this sport. And I am a volunteer. My husband volunteers. Many of my friends volunteer to make our local roller hockey association go smoothly. We rent from Earl Warren, and people ask me, hey, we have to do something. We've had kids leave hockey because of their parents want them to be some sort of college scholarship for sports. They're very sporty. They're very good at hockey. They now play basketball. They play track, or they run track. They do all these things and on the approved list is, bowling and dance. And I thought, man, if bowling and dance could be, we should look into this independent PE thing, because maybe we can do something with this. We have 2 also volunteer coaches, one of whom is not even a parent at all. They, for 2 years, have been spending their free time coaching high school and 8th grade JV team to play in the Santa Maria Central Coast Roller Hockey League. We've won the championship twice. So we have this amazing talent. We have 2 other Santa Barbara kids who started here at Earl Warren who are on the State of California championship team for the 16 and under ice hockey team, but they started here. Like, my son was on their teams. My husband's coached their kids. I've known them since they were 10, and now they're 16 and almost state champions. They came very close. So we have this amazing acceptance. Everybody plays.
30 seconds.
Oh, people leave other sports to play with us because we let everybody play, and everybody has a great time. And there's just there's got to be something that we can do to, if the independent PE doesn't work out, that there's something that we could do that lets these kids, allows them to play and to continue playing and get this amazing exercise. It's 800 calories an hour. So it's a wonderful, wonderful sport. It's so fun, and we have no checking. We have a ton of girls. We have kids from every socioeconomic
Thank you very
background.
much.
So we'd love to continue it. Thank you.
1,800 calories an hour.
Gwen Hadlick? Ladnick, thank you.
The opportunity to speak. I actually wanted to speak after Janine Dallow because her letter was so eloquently written. She was speaking my language. Her son Michael and my son Nicholas, who's here tonight, have found a love for hockey like no other sport they've ever experienced. And Nicholas, who's gone to Cold Spring School and started playing noontime sports with Corey. Corey started it because all through Nick did not connect in sports, and he really struggled with the dynamics, and he's given me permission to speak about him. And then he went into Santa Barbara Rec Sports because Corey was coaching. And then he went to Santa Barbara Junior High and began to do very well because it was a bigger pool of children to connect with, and he started hockey through a mutual friend. And he took off. Hockey is his sport, and he has so much energy, and I don't want to get into the IEP and the II, he's in an intervention course. That's not the point, it's our point, but the whole hockey administration, they're volunteers, they're very positive, wonderful, and very professional people. And we've found ways to make the whole thing happen through the insurance situation, and we're all gung-ho, yes, we're going to make this happen. And it's looking kind of dire right now, and I'm quite concerned because my son, who has so much energy, hockey helps him do better in school. He needs hockey, and he loves PE at school, but that does not make him thrive, and he's such a bright and gifted child who struggles through his classes because of his personal difficulties, ADHD both types, and a processing speed deficit. And we work hard. He uses a lot of elbow grease, and he does not get the outside experiences because of the workload, because of what it has taken him to get to this point. We've not been able to have him do outside sports and become nationally ranked because we couldn't afford the Hapkido that we tried. We couldn't afford the swimming that his father was almost a nationally competitive swimmer. And it's so expensive that he's not had the experience to get to that point until hockey. And he's thriving. And I want him to play hockey and not be so tightly into the schedule that he's going to have to, he already has to give up an
30
elective.
seconds.
So he already has to give up an elective. And if he has the time to do homework or whatever for PE, so be it. I want that to happen. And every single one of kids on this league and the parents have been absolutely fabulous. And it's completely affordable. And they get more exercise than I've seen in any of the sports he's played. So
Thank you very
recommend it.
much.
Thank you for your time.
And I have to say thank you for the kind words about my son. I always appreciate that.
Thanks, Mom.
Roy Weinecke, followed by Denise Adams, followed by Janine Dallow.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to address you. As I don't know if you remember, I am the president of Spirals Gymnastics at Robertson's Gym at UCSB. The USCSB supports us, and these children that you're talking about competing at a national or international level, it's sort of like the chicken before the egg. These children have started with our programs from kindergarten. They have spent their entire lives trying to develop into this sport. And when you have the hours of 10, that's nothing what these children have done. They have put in 24 to 36 hours in 7th grade already. My daughter is one of them, and among other children, and of every ethnic background we support. We are a nonprofit organization, we support that. The problem with your criteria of 1 year of a minimum at that level is that they need the hours to get to compete at that level. If you have them 1 year, when will they ever do it? In 6th grade? it will just never happen. They need the hours to train to reach that level of competition. And also, USAG, I think, is one of the, for women at least, and men's too, is they are organized sport, and these children don't compete at a national level. The sport itself does not lend itself to that at this point. They have to go to level 4, it goes to a state level. Level 5 goes to a state level. Level 6, and then level 7, and level 8. And it doesn't go to the national level until level 9, and most children don't reach that until 8th or 9th grade at the earliest. And you're robbing them, without getting those hours to train, you'll never be able to get in those levels of competition. They need the time to do this training safely. There's just no way around it. You've got to do the hours for the strength, the core training, and without that kind of support from this program, it will never happen. You might just say, USA Gymnastics, you need to start competing at a national level, but they don't do that. They start at a much later level. And they do that because they want to make sure the kids are safe, that the coaches don't push them to do skills they're not ready for. In gymnastics, the problem is you can have kids compete skills, but they're not physically prepared for it. They're rushed to it, and injuries happen. Gymnastics wants to go a slower progression and have a safe sport and to compete at the national levels. They will, I believe, in our program, I believe that we can get to that level.
30 seconds.
They do need that time, and you have to consider that in all these sports, how do you get to the national level? It's because these children have given their entire lives already, but you haven't given them the hours to do it if you take it away from them. How do you get to the national level without giving them the hours to get there in the first place? It's sort of like they'll never be able to do that without the support of at least considering. Increase the hours for requirements for your program. 10 hours is very low. You can go higher to 24
Thank you very
higher.
much.
Thank you.
Denise Adams, followed by Janine Dallow.
Hi, I'd first like to thank you for deferring this to your next meeting. And I'd like to underscore what the speaker before me said from Spiral Gymnastics. My mother was an Olympic gymnast, and you don't get to the nationals until you're 16, 17, 18 years old. And I know my daughter started at 3, but I'm not here because of my daughter. I'm here because I'm very concerned about your policy. I come to you tonight as the mother of a former varsity Santa Barbara High athlete who started his career young at the Boys and Girls Club. I also worked on your Memorandum of Understanding, your initial one. I also am very familiar with the Boys and Girls Club and their activities. Anyway, to accomplish social engineering via independent PE or PE, we know doesn't work. I hope when you defer this measure, you will look at what happened. My son, Andrew Adams, who was a distinguished Don who now plays varsity water polo for MIT, he started his career with the city and at the Boys and Girls Club. He was primarily the only gringo on mostly Hispanic teams. I would like to ask you to look at the outcomes of our ESPN #1 award-winning Santa Barbara High soccer team and the Latinos who took independent PE versus those who did not, and where they are now. I think you'll find some are at University of Virginia, Cal Lutheran, whatever. The paths are different because not only does independent PE give them the opportunity to succeed regionally and statewide, it gives them the opportunity to succeed academically because they're in a whole different social milieu. So I hope that you will look at the outcomes of the Latino population in independent PE. I also hope you will look at the requirement for national or international competition because I know my son was on the city's #1 baseball team. Torpedo, Pepe Gill was our pitcher. He's now at Santa Barbara High. We couldn't afford to go to the state. We were on the #1 Southern California soccer team from the Boys and Girls Club. We couldn't afford to go to Sacramento. My son's club water polo team advanced to Kansas. He couldn't go because I was in the midst of a divorce and the Santa Barbara Superior Court will not allow you to leave the state when you're in the middle of a divorce. So my son was locked into California for 3 years. He couldn't go to nationals or internationals.
30 seconds.
So again, you have so many issues. When you limit it to athletes who were only nationally and internationally competitive. You've just discriminated, in my observation, against most Latinos in our system, which are highly valued athletes. You've just discriminated against most children from divorce who are in the court system. And you've adversely affected their career path into college because, like it or not, most of the elite schools require some form of high-level varsity participation.
Ms.
And
Adams.
my last comment is, when we did this MOU, we took sailing into the program. As a result
Can
of
you
that,
please
it's
wrap it
not
up?
just Hasla Sailor, Oliver Toole's on our Olympic team now. That's what you create with a program like Independent PE.
Thank
I
you
hope
very
you
much.
continue it.
Janine Dallow.
Hi, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm new coming to the high school. I've got 3 children. My oldest, Michael, will be a freshman next year. He was at Cold Spring School and then at Crane. And he has had a little bit of a difficult path through school. He's had a hard time finding exactly where he fits in. And we were happy to put him in a small school for his junior high years, and now he's very anxious to go to the high school. It's his choice. It's where he wants to be. And he's played different sports since he was young. His dad is very much into sports. He's a coach in the Pony League. And I have a younger son who excels at sports, but my older son, Michael, has participated but never really enjoyed anything. And this fall, we heard about this inline hockey organization in Santa Barbara, and we had friends that were involved, and we encouraged Michael to try it out. And my husband wasn't very hopeful. He said, "Oh, he'll just try it and he'll drop it. It's not going to work out." But I went to the first. They didn't even call it tryout. It was I'm not sure what it called, but it was the first opportunity for the coaches to get an idea of what the kids, how they could skate. I guess it was evaluations. And Michael dragged his heels. He didn't really want to do it, but he went with me. And Kirk Grier, who runs the organization, he came right over to Michael. Kirk has been skating, and he came over, and we didn't have all the gear with us. We didn't own anything. And Kurt took off his skates. He said, "Michael, what size foot do you have?" And he gave Michael his skates to put on. And some other mothers came over and went through the bin and gave him the pads. And somebody else gave him a helmet. And Michael went out. And it was amazing. He just took to it. And he wasn't very good. He doesn't excel at it at this point, but he loves it. And it's never an argument to get him to go there. And the coaches and just all the parents involved, it's just been a wonderful experience for him. In addition to that, Michael has some issues with school, with his learning. He's a super bright kid, but he has some issues with focus. And I just think that given the opportunity to get credit for this hockey, which is a wonderful workout for him, would enable him to have some other choices at school. Right now, he's also trying to decide where he'll fit in at the high school. We've heard a lot of great things about the Mad Academy, and to me, that's very appealing because it's a small class size.
30
Michael's
seconds.
also heard about this new Green Academy. Well, he can't take the prerequisites for both academies because of the PE, the time he'd have to spend in the PE class. So if he were able to get credit outside of school for PE, he would be able to explore these 2 avenues and make a decision for his sophomore year when he would get into the Mad Academy. And I can't say enough good things about the hockey. It's been a great program.
Thank
and
you
if
very
Michael
much.
had a free period in later years, he could probably also apply that to more study time. But thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Okay, thank you very much to all of you who spoke, and board members. Since we will be returning to this, we will not engage in our discussion this evening, and we will have it on our next agenda with the correct title on the agenda so that those members of the public who are interested in the high school component know that that's going to be discussed.
And I also want to note, though, with that, I was going to suggest this anyway, that we will extend the deadline for application is May 1st, and we won't be meeting until then. So we're going to extend that, and I'll make sure the coordinators know that and they get the information out to parents. I think you know that all the parents that have applied, or anyone who even asked about it, got the information to come to the board meeting, and the revisions are in place, but not at the high school necessarily. So
Okay.
I agree with this. Thank you.
Okay, great. And
Madam President?
Yes.
Just a request, for the next meeting, I would like to see more numbers. How many children or students currently are in the program, how many you estimate will be in the program, and just some more numbers on this whole topic.
Would you like me, I can give you the numbers, right now. You got the junior high
I
ones
don't need to know.
last
I don't-
time,
I'd
and
like
I
to see
know
them in
you
writing.
don't. But as far as who would be, we would be sitting and doing our whole selection meeting with all of the applications in order to tell you the number that would be going in. I don't think I could actually give you an accurate number with that.
I just need estimates. We have a 7th grade now. How many of these students would have qualified?
The
under
ones
current-
right now going forward, I can
Yeah,
certainly
how-
do that.
How many that are in the 7th grade now that would not have met these criteria?
We can do that.
Could you also include the costs of the additional sections that of PE that we might have to add?
If everyone went forward, if we didn't change anything, what it might look like, based on the guess of 6th graders coming in?
Well, I would think it would be if we did change something, and so
Okay,
some of
and
those
if we did.
independent PE students ended up going into PE classes and we had to add extra sections.
Yes, we'll do that.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move on to item E2, the third reading and approval of Administrative Regulation 5145.21, School Publications Code, and revision of Administrative Regulation 5145.2, Freedom of Speech/Expression.
This is a return to a previous item as well. We believe we captured the revisions directed by the board at our last meeting, and Barbara Kiani is here to answer any questions about those revisions.